Okay, coming up next is Jess Golick. She's a highly esteemed cybersecurity expert, and she has over 25 years of experience in engineering and cybersecurity. Her background includes leading cybersecurity teams, directing international cyber competitions, co-authoring NIST special publications on cybersecurity standards and national cyber strategy documents, and establishing cyber innovation centers. She's the founder of the Play Cyber program, which utilizes games for workforce deployment. So Jess is presenting on gaining a cognitive edge, smart esports for high-performance team training. Can I please get a massive warm round of applause for Jess?
Thank you. Is this working? Can you guys hear me okay? All right. Thank you all. So before we get started, excellent. I'd like to get kind of a feel for the room. How many out there would say they're gamers? Raise your hands. Okay. How about athletes? Do you play sports? Just a few. So more gamers than athletes. It's funny, every time I talk to an audience, slightly different. And how many of you have security certifications right now? And how many believe the certifications prepare you for when an incident actually occurs? So the incident occurs, the crisis is going on. Do you feel like the certs is enough? Anybody? All right, fantastic. Today's talk is about gaining the cognitive edge. So we'll talk a little bit about what the cognitive edge is, why it's important today, and what we're learning from esports and how that can translate into high-performing operational teams in cybersecurity and tech. So my name is Jessica Gulick, and over about the last 25 years, I've done a variety of different roles and had the honor of working with teams that do forensics, penetration testing, disaster recovery, as well as startups, and even boards, educational boards. And watching over the years how team dynamics makes an impact has been tremendous for me. I have a love for cybersecurity, and my love really stems from the fact that unlike any other career field that you can do today, cybersecurity is fundamentally about us versus them. And what does that remind you of? Sports, right? And so it's fascinating to me looking at the sports industry, and particularly right now in today's market, the esports industry, to figure out what is it that we can learn from sports and esports to make us better at defending our networks. And so it actually occurred to me around 2007. I was part of what was first the pilot for something called Cyber Patriot. In the United States, Cyber Patriot is a high school competition. And it was the very first year we were doing it. And so they took a survey in the early morning, and then they took the survey again after the competition. And what they realized is, at that point in time, Capture the Flag contest were helping students visualize what it would be like to be a cybersecurity operator, and really turning them on to the idea of figuring out their career path and education. And the majority of them came in thinking, I'm not sure what I'm going to do in college. But then they went on to say, hey, I think I'll do cybersecurity. And that opened up an entire career for them. Moving forward, what I noticed throughout the years was that we went from Capture the Flag really just opening up a career, honing some technical skills, to I fast forward to a competition I held in Colorado. It was very unique, Capture the Flag, because we had a middle school team, we had a high school team, a college team, and a professional team compete in the same game. Can you imagine who won? Any bets? The high school team took it away. The professional team that came in, they sat at their table, they each said, we're going to take a server, you defend it, I'll defend it. They never talked once. There was no Discord up, there was nothing. They were just literally, they divided the work and said, You do you, I'll do me. The middle school team, they were coming in just trying to figure out what things were going on, to be honest. But the high school team walked in with a captain who never sat down. The captain never sat down. Captain did not take a server. He walked around the table constantly, making sure people stayed on task, and that if they needed help, they moved work around. And he just obliterated their team, won by scores on the professional team. It was actually very interesting to watch. But that wasn't his technical skill, was it? It was his cognitive skill. About 200 years ago, we were trading on what we call a physical economy. This is where the strongest workers won. So if you were trying to see who was going to be successful in life, strength had a lot to do with it. Moving on, we moved into the industrial economy about 100 years ago, where mechanical skills won. Understanding how to build things with your hands and do things was respected in our economy. About 30 years ago, let's say when I started my career, it was the information economy. It was all about information. Understanding how do you get to the information, how do you analyze it, and then what do you do with it? Today is different. At every conference around the world right now, we're learning about AI. We're learning about how to do prompt engineering. We're learning about agentic. We're learning about all this stuff. And the buzz around here is that AI is making our youth dumber, right? We've heard it. Workers don't need to know much, etc. What we're not talking about is the opportunity that we have to recenter on the human in the loop, to the relevancy, to the control, to the power, to the advancement. And that's where we're currently at. Some people will say that the human is the weakest link. I would say human is the biggest opportunity. And that's where we need to start re-looking at and evolving how we actually move forward on education and preparedness. Now, the cognitive domain is still being formed and means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And the human role is starting to form as well. But is it the victim? And cognitive warfare, it's all about things like disinformation operations and utilizing the digital aspects in order to drive human behavior in a certain influenced way, right? It's about manipulation. Again, supporting human as the weakest link. But as we move forward with this concept of a cognitive athlete or a cognitive professional in the cognitive domain, it's more about empowering. It's about training. It's about conditioning. But our organizations and workforce is not quite there. There are billions of dollars going into the advancement of tools because everybody thinks it's a hardware or software solution. It's not. What we need to really be focusing on is how do we empower and train and condition the human mind to be able to take advantage of and control the technology and the opportunities we have. And then how do we also get past fatigue, overload, delayed decisions, not knowing what to do? Conditioning is different than certifications and intelligence. Our universities and certification training programs is all about building intelligence, right? This is how I do it. It's the task level. And the tasks that you learn become that knowledge level that then turns into capability, which is all very important. But we're missing an opportunity in our workforce, and that is about conditioning. So let me back it away from technology for a minute. I love sports. Not too much of a gamer, to be honest with you, but I am more about an athlete. I have spent years and years in sports, either as an athlete myself or as a mother, watching my children grow and listening to the coaches. And so let me remind you guys, at the beginning of every basketball game, what's happening. Before the game starts, they're probably running drills. They're doing layups. Same thing with football, right? Or soccer, every sport that you can think of, they go through all these drills. Why do they do it? To warm up their body? Sure. So they don't have to think about it. They are conditioning their muscles. When you are training at that elite level in sports, you go through drills again and again, hours and hours, whether it's esports or golf or football, etc., of training. So that in the milliseconds when you need to do something, you're not thinking, okay, foot, hand coordination. You're just doing it. So when you look back at the cybersecurity workforce, what is the difference between an expert and a rookie? Not having to think about what they need to do. They just do it. So we need opportunities to start training our cognitive skills, which are very different than our workplace skills. It can be confusing because we use terms like focus and teamwork and leadership. But think of it as pattern recognition, logic, reasoning. These are the base fundamental things that you don't need to know how specifically to use a tool, but it's giving you the fundamentals so that you can learn to use any tool. Does that make sense? So these are the building blocks that we need to go back to in our education programs and our training programs in order to really ensure that we're ready to have those available to us when we learn the tasks. But if we can't go back and we go forward, let's start training them and conditioning them. And this is where we start looking at this rise of a cognitive professional. You have the IT worker from before that was all about IT skills. Now enter this cognitive domain. Let me support this a little bit. World Economic Forum says that the first time in the last 7 to 10 years ever, cognitive skills are more highly funded, salaries are higher, people are looking for them, more than technical skills. We all thought it was the technical skills throughout the 90s and the early 2000s, but now it's about the cognitive because of the ability of the pace at which technology is changing so fast every day. We want to hire people that can learn as they go, right? They can apply it in different ways. And that's where we're starting to embrace this cognitive professional concept. So what does that look like? Intuition, instinct, switching ability to be able to look at this and look at that, to be able to look at the entire game board or the entire situational awareness. But it's about intuition in terms of being able to understand what you need to do when you need to do it, and the instinct to try to dig into maybe hunt in a certain area or look for certain indicators, etc. This all comes from training, not necessarily just certification. Does that make sense? From applying it. And that's where we're really trying to get to with our workforce. So what are other areas doing? If we look across the marketplace, there's a change happening in that, let's look at NASCAR, for example. Actually, the majority of elite NASCAR drivers are starting to train with virtual reality machines right now. It's less expensive. They don't have to worry about injury. But more than that, they are conditioning their mind to make decisions in training so that when they get out there, they can make split-moment decisions. They're also doing something else. They're learning in those virtual reality sessions how to deal with the stress. Like some of that virtual reality, it's using smell, it's using sound, it's using visuals, because what they're trying to do is get them past that stress level. At some point when a crisis hits, if you don't take immediate action in our business, you're losing millions of dollars. They might lose their life. So they're using technology and conditioning, mental conditioning, to get them past that point of stress or fear, if you will, so they can operate without thinking. They're compartmentalizing so they can focus. Football is doing similar, but slightly different analogy here. They're using different technologies in VR in order to be able to see the field, right? If you're the quarterback, you're in the red zone, you've got the defense is coming up against you, probably going to blitz. You've got to make a decision. That is training, conditional training. They're using technology in order to train to be able to see different aspects of what is going on around you so that your brain can take in more data, analyze it, and react. Similar to the OODA, right? But to react, to be able to make good decisions. It's all about conditioning. Their understanding, in fact, sports psychology is growing in the United States in terms of career fields because of the money behind it, but because sports is actually seeing that they need to train the mental as much as the physical. Then we look at esports, which is what I love. Esports is similar to sports, but it's online, spending tons and tons of hours online doing computer games. As a team, they have to communicate. They've got to have all these different skills. They're using the technology as well for performance telemetry, for eye tracking, for being able to react very quickly. The thing about esports is that it's very similar to cyber operations, is it not? They use very similar infrastructure. They have a different mission, if you will. But in terms of the cognitive skills and everything, they're very similar. Where they're different is cyber operations is worried about the constant alerts, the constant multitasking, all of these different pressures on a cyber operations creates what we call a cognitive overload. Now remember I told you NASCAR is utilizing VR training in order to get past that cognitive fear, if you will. We can leverage this in cyber operations as well. What that means is that our workforce can be prepared to handle crises without freaking out, without having a stress attack, if you will, to be able to take in the telemetry that is given to us through the SIM or through whichever dashboard we're taking a look at, and then to be able to react, not just respond. Respond is great, it's methodical, it's planned, it takes time. But in today's world, we need to be able to react with confidence and experience. So how do we get there? We can take a look at esports. Esports trains for chaos, and that's exactly why it works for us. We are taking a look at Play Cyber and the US Cyber Games at how do we leverage concepts in esports to train cyber operators through cyber sports. It's a little different. Whenever I say cyber esports, everybody's just like, but the visualizations aren't there. I don't care about the visualizations. In my tribe and the folks that I work with, we love the visualizations we have. It means something to us. The real value is a ton of research that has been going on for the last 20 years in esports on how to train the mental capabilities of the youth that are playing these esports, how to communicate, how to prepare, how to get them to focus and to react. That decision making is where we can look at the research and bring that into cyber operations in order to really start honing the instincts and intuitions that can save our networks. In fact, if you look at today's elite esport player, they look very similar to a cyber operator. They're focused, they're worried about their speed, their reaction time, teamwork, and resilience. US Cyber Team, congrats to them on getting second. We're super proud. I have had the honor of watching many of them over the last 5 years and noticed how they've gone from bringing their technical skills and coming to the competition as individuals to forming a team and coming up with a strategy and a plan to work together as one unit. And that is what's making a difference. That's what we're starting to see in esports as well. In fact, esports trains for, imagine that, pattern recognition, rapid decision making, team communication and strategy. Is all this starting to jive with you? Are you seeing the similarities that I am in terms of security operations? It's all around that. So does that mean our security managers are now essentially coaches? Perhaps. It's fascinating we start looking at some of the statistics as well. The connection between gaming and cognitive function in esports is interesting. So let's try to drive some parallels here. Reaction time. Esport players' performance from a reaction time 10 to 20% faster than non-players. What would that mean in terms of incident response if you were conditioning your own team? How about their attention span? They focus a lot on this because they need to know where the friendlies are, where the not so friendlies are, so they can prepare and they can communicate. Strategic planning as well. How are they going to take the whole game board? win, right? It's not just about the tasks they need to do in their checklist. It's about the sequence of the task and how they need to go about it. That's critical. But it even gets more interesting because I watch our own teams and our competing teams on what they go through. Did you know in esports, has anybody heard of what's called tilt? Right? Have you ever been really angry at the office? You had a full day, they've just pissed you off. You're done. Can you focus on what you need to get done, or do you just go take a break? So in esports, coaches spend hours, weeks, and months training esport athletes on how to deal with tilt, so they again can get past the frustration and focus. They even term this a reset strategy. So some esports teams, they have some kind of motto, a saying, etc. When shit hits the fan, they would say, 0-0, man, score 0-0. Sound like sports to you? The point of the matter is they have something that they can repeat that their team understands. That means I know it sucks, move on. Let it go, get back into the energy, and keep it going. Because your job is to put points on the board. Now think about your operations team. Crisis is happening. They don't know what's happening to their kids. They don't know what's happening to their families. They have the pressures of, will I have my job tomorrow? Oh my God, my network's been ransomed. How do they reset their mental capability so they can focus on getting the job done? We're learning this in esports. People are actually coaching youth on how to handle this. Why can't we do this in cyber operations? And then my favorite is flow, for the business managers in the room. Flow is, I think most of us probably have heard, in the zone, right? Have you guys ever, I'm in the zone, leave me alone, right? Flow is that high performance period of your mind where things are flowing. You kind of, I start seeing the domino. I turn my music on. I'm one of those strange people that I have to have loud music to really focus my head because it goes in too many directions. And I get into the flow. And don't stop me. I can be in the flow, believe it or not, for 48 hours or more, just consistently going. This happens in esports too. In fact, coaches condition players on how to start the flow and how to maintain it. The flow, again, is your ability to get in that high performance peak state, which actually has data if you're like wearing a Whoop and you can actually track your heart rate and such, so that you can get maximum productivity out of that player. And how do you maintain that when the world is crashing around them, or they're building something next to you and you're trying to focus in? This is what is critical for esport teams, is to how do I turn that on faster? So what is my warm up? Same thing in sports, right? Coaches get you to warm up, get that heart rate going. I want you in the flow. I want your mind in the game, only the game. Don't worry about your girlfriend sitting in the stands or what the scoreboard says. Get your mind in the game and keep it there. This is what we can learn, again, from esports. Coaching, wealth of information out there. Coaches play a critical role. In cybersecurity sports, the coach is not there to tell you how to do your job. They are not there to give you technical advice. They could, some of them can. They're there to help structure the practice, to be able to give real-time feedback, to be almost like a mentor. Did you think about that? How about this? To give role clarity. Your job's your job. So many people are role clarity is important because if I can trust you to do your job, I can focus holistically on my job. I don't have to worry about your job and my job. You're going to do your job. I'm going to do my job. Together, we're going to do fabulous, right? That's important. Performance under stress. Coach's job during a game is to make sure the players focus on the goal. I don't care what's going on. I don't care what the scoreboard says. Focus on what I told you to focus on, right? Team synchronization. Do you know what's happening on your team? Are they all at that flow state? It sounds like somebody's just really struggling here. Let's look across the board and see who needs help. Can we do something? Can we take a different strategy? Can we put the right player at the right task to do the right job in the right amount of time? A team's strength isn't just skill, technical skill. It's how well they think and act together under pressure. And the coach helps make that possible. In esports, how about your security operations team? Does it sound familiar? All of these things are things we don't think about because we're too busy thinking about how much money can I get to buy that tool and what is AI going to do to my job. Where we can be focusing on this and being better as humans in the loop, if you will. Again, humans doing security operations so that we can control that technology and that investment to put it where it needs to really activate our workforce. So cyber is a sport. Again, just to kind of rehash why I'm so passionate about this, cybersecurity is no longer just a career field. I don't know about you guys, but I live and breathe it. It's my entire life. It's what I research in the morning. It's what I think about on walks. We just have a different kind of career in cybersecurity. The more you get into it, it really is a community, right? We care about each other in different ways. But it's also incredibly competitive, which makes it beautiful. And embracing cybersecurity as a sport allows us to bring all the things we talked about today into cybersecurity operations or cybersecurity management so that we can really find that trifecta of skills, that sweet spot that brings in the technical skills, those workforce skills like teamwork and collaboration, time management, and the cognitive skills about mental endurance, situational awareness, speed, proficiency, adaptability to go from big picture to small picture. And we can do this through cyber simulations. Fight as you train, right? Train as you fight. These are the concepts. Cybersecurity simulations allow us to take exercises and apply pressure in hands-on, immersive environments to really get the value out of the program. The team morale value, the skill value, the conditioning, the mental exercise that we need. They simulate chaos safely. They allow teams to normalize the fog of war and build the neural pathways required to real-world incident response. We're doing this at the US Cyber Games. We are looking at, and we're at the beginning, it's going to take some time, but we're looking at how do we really focus on a cyber athlete model? How do we take these lessons learned that I've talked about from traditional athletes that train their muscles to cyber athletes that are training their neural pathways, that are training their mind to be able to get past the stress, to work as a team, to really try to get those leaning forward to get the additional value. One thing that we're going to be looking at this year that I'll share with you again coming from esports are these three things when we look at our future athletes: currency, proficiency, and flow. So when we look at metrics and our evaluation scouting process, we're going to be looking at how current are these cyber operators or cyber athletes, if you will, in their gaming. Have they been playing CTFs? Do they do so constantly? How proficient are they in their areas of choice, their primary and secondary areas, cryptography, web security, et cetera? And are they able to focus? Can they operate as a team at a high performance flow state? So some of this we can do from applications, some of this we can do from our own CTFs and games where we're evaluating technical skill sets. Then some of it really comes into attack and defense games and seeing some of these exercises as well as how do they operate as a team, can they focus? So there's some observation in it as well. These are things you can look for in security operations management as well. How current are they with their certs and their understanding of technology? How proficient are they? Their depth of understanding, do they have that? And can I keep them at a productivity state? Are they really going to be able to get in the flow and get some really good operations and results from their capability? When you start looking at coaching, think about teamwork and collaboration, competitive drive within your operations center, self-regulation. Does that individual have the ability to regulate their own emotions so they're not distracting the rest of your team? Adaptability. Can they only do one thing, or if things change, can they adapt quickly without too much stress so that we can continue operations? Think about these aspects that we use in cyber operations for cyber sports in your operations. Then think about some of the coaching aspects that we talked about today. Are you looking at your team in terms of your cognitive conditioning of their capability? Have you talked about how they manage stress and fatigue and being overwhelmed before they actually get there? What are some of the operational metrics that you have for your team so that you are actually monitoring their performance? Not just because you want it to be at that high state, but because you want them to have a good life. Do you know what I mean? You don't want them to be too overstressed. Looking at some of the individual metrics that we can put there so that we can start measuring, competing, and really giving the human the ability to measure their personal records so they can continue to improve their own abilities. Some of the things that you can look at doing in corporations. One is mini cyber CTFs, internal exercises or games. You can travel to various different entities. There's CTFs going on all the time. You go to CTF time, check it out, decide which game you're going to play, decide what success means for you. Otherwise, some of these competitions, you will be playing 20 and 40 hours and you'll be going crazy. But you can look at a competition and say, yeah, our goal is to hit this. This is our objective. If we hit that, that's success for us. But you can use somebody else's infrastructure, which is nice. Going through any kind of exercises, gamified training, embracing cyber games and sports into your team training allows you to do many things. In fact, I was talking to a couple of different companies a few months ago at an organization I was briefing, and we were saying that by running a CTF of sorts that they decide, depending on what they're measuring, every year, they can actually incorporate the results of that competition into a performance metric system so they can see what they couldn't see before, that the skills were actually increasing. So you can actually build that into performance reviews as an additional metric to take a look at for building your team and building the resiliency of their mental capability and the amount of stress that they have to handle. It all depends on what your job is and what your team is doing. But I want to invite you all to embrace the cognitive frontier and the ability to take a look at how games and what we can learn from sports to really start to apply it in security operations so that we can advance the human workforce as fast as we're advancing technology. So get in the game, and let's build it together. Thank you. Any questions? Do we have question time?
Yes. Yeah, we have 5 minutes.
Any questions?
We don't have any questions through the app. Does anyone have any questions? I can run the mic around.
Excellent.
No?
Let's go have lunch.
Well, let me get you there.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Just a thank you from OzCert for presenting.
Oh, I appreciate it. That's awesome. That's cool.
Thank you so much. We'll be back at 2 o'clock after lunch.